Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. So in this video, again, I'm going to review on a paper entitled Ethics as a Solution to Corruption, a case study of the construction industry in Kenya. So this is the content of my presentation. So first is who has have done the work, what were the goals and objectives, what were the research questions, if any, and what were their methods in terms of but not limited to how have they gathered relevant data, how is the data gathering set up, what are the tools techniques used in data gathering, how do they form a data set, how do they clean the data, and how do they process the data. The next is what were their findings, what were the gaps in their studies or findings, and the last one is what are your takeaways in this paper. So the first content is the who has have done the work. So this work was done by were done by the three researcher, Adeline M. Dindi, Munala A. Al-Izim, and Ivaa C. Gichor. Fikiva and Gichor. So what were the goals and objectives? So the goals is to present results of an investigation into a prevalent ethical problems in a construction industry in Kenya and their impact on projects. And the objective of this paper is to consider the good ethical behavior as solution to corruption. So what were the research questions, if any? So I found this research question on this paper. So what are the prevalent ethical issues that lead a person into a corruption? How to address prevalent ethical problems in the construction industry, and how to improve ethics. So what were their methods in terms of but not limited to how have they gathered relevant data, how is the data gathering set up, and what are the tools techniques used in data gathering. So they gathered relevant data. The data was gathered from 7 respondents, and 2 of whom were architects and 5 is quantity surveyors. So how is the data gathering set up? So they were chosen based on experience of those architects and quantity surveyors of Kenya. So those using the Institute of Quantity Surveyors of Kenya Professional Excellence Awards, 3 consultants who have received awards in different categories were interviewed. One received a Lifetime Achievements Award, and the second, Role Modeling in Education, and the third, Role Modeling Younger Generations in Innovation. 2 respondents were from Ministry of Public Works and had overseen registration constructors, whilst among other 2, one was a registrar in a regulatory body for architect and quantity surveyor, and the other had in the past sat on the ethics committee at the same body. So that is the how they gathered or the data gathering setup. And the next is what are the tools techniques used in data gathering. So and this study was conducted using a qualitative techniques. Information rich participants with vast experience from the industry were purposefully selected, and data was gathered using in-depth interviews and analyzed using a thematic analysis, and the interviews were carried out in March 2015. So the next is how do they form a data set and how do they clean the data. So how did they form the data set? The data was collected using indeed interviews and analyzed using thematic analysis. And how do they clean the data? By organizing information like skimming, reading, and interpretation. So what were their methods in terms of but not limited to how do they process the data? So the author presents the result from mathematic analysis of a perception of information reached subject from different sectors of the industry. So the general ethical issues. What were their findings? So general ethical issues. First, findings for the research questions. The general ethical issues that emerge in both private and public sectors could be summarized as follows: exclusion, lack of delivery of professional services by consultants, supplanting your colleagues, issues regarding fees and payments of wages in gaining of unfair advantages. Suggested ways to fight corruption included a personal values such as honesty, integrity, and embracing the religion. So those are the suggested ways to fight the corruption. And we also feel that teaching professional ethics only after one has become professional not sufficient, and that these values needed to be instilled into students, therefore they become professionals. Most common ethical problems is there was a general agreement in the perception of the respondents that professionals did not do their work well. So those are the common ethical problems exist on on uh, on Kenya. In many cases of poor quality of their work when they are doing their job, uh, they just do it with a poor requirements completed. So be it of a drawing of the materials of workmanship, so were reported by respondents in other signs of lack of professionalism, including the lack of attention to details. So inadequate design, inflated bills of quantities, and delayed final accounts, inadequate site investigation. So those are the common ethical problems of the professionals that uh, that is studied here on this paper. So how to improve ethics? Respondents were asked to suggest ways of improving ethics amongst professionals. The responses can be divided into three levels. So there are individual, so there are individual level, the professional level, and societal level. At the individual level, the suggestions were that there was a need for discipline, especially among the youth, and the trait of teachability was needed. And change of attitude was also key to being ethical. So at the professional level, there was a need to pay fair wages so that professionals and workers do not fall into temptation to enter dubious deals to meet their needs. Training on ethics was important in the need to start early at the university level. Participating in professional activities also brings professionals together with reduce such things as supplanting and role modeling of young professionals from older ones, and creating an atmosphere of trust. And at a societal level, there was need to improve the economic situation. So this economic situation of workers and pay fair wages, because this is what drives people into unethical conduct. Changes of societal attitude in people need to embrace religion as a countrywide revolution is stating with the leaders. So there was also a pertinent issue of instilling values to the youth, especially from the family, because is where a person is informed best. The major finding of this study is that there are myriads of unethical practices amongst consultants and construction uh, participants that are rich sources or source of opportunity for corrupt practices. Collusion between consultants and constructors and between consultants and clients and the representative is rampant. So this is the commonly ethical issues exist. Uh, that's why there is a lot of corruption happens in the construction industries in Kenya. The collusion between the two parties, from the consultants, constructors, and the workers, and also the clients. So those are the findings of this study. So the next is, what were the gaps in their studies and findings. So the gaps in these studies is researcher only focus on ethical behavior in respondents without understanding the effect of the religion into their actions. So they mentions the one of those uh, issues, or one of those actions, or one thing that can be resolved the corruption is by abiding a religion, but in just a minimal study. So they just mentioned the religion without deeper analyzing or elaborating its advantage. So for me, that is the gap of this study, because as we all know, that if that person is properly obeying or abiding into his or her religion, is that religion is example, if in my religion, it is not advisable to commit any that kind of crimes like the corruption. So that is not a good practices, and must not commit that kind of mistakes. So what are your takeaways on this paper? So my takeaways on this paper is, I read a lot of uh, issues that raise to cause a corruption. But so because of the difficulty in life status of the workers, so we all know that the corruption heavily exists in the less advanced country, and also the improper management of the organization and a low salary for the workers, so that tempted them to commit mistakes, because they really needed the higher salary, or that uh, in order for them to sustain their family, and some others also because of unethical behavior, that they want to uh, reach easily, they want to get money easily. So on that case, uh, we must properly disseminate the good ethical behavior into a professionals, and also into our students. So that's all for this video uh, on my review on a paper the case study of the corruption in Kenya. The ethics as a solution to corruption, a case study of the construction industry in Kenya. So thank you.